Good morning, my name is Paul Sanderson, and in this short introductory video to the forensic browser for SQLite, I'm going to quickly go through some of the main features of the browser. I'm going to show you how to create simple reports. I'm going to show you how to customize those reports to just include the columns that you want, maybe giving the column a different name and something more meaningful for your case, how to display a date in a meaningful format, and how to put a picture, for instance an avatar image from Skype, into your report, and how to finally, on the report side of things, customize a HTML output report so it looks exactly as you like. We'll also cover how to filter and show deleted records if you've recovered them from a database, a little bit about joins, SQL joins, how to create them visually, and then we'll cover the query manager, how to save your reports for later use and possibly to share with colleagues. First off, we're going to create a case file, and we're going to create a case file on disk, and we're going to call it imaginatively test.case. We're immediately prompted for the database we want to investigate, and this is the Skype main DB from my iPhone with some anonymized data. And we're going to create a working copy of the database rather than work on the original, and we're going to recover deleted records. Had there been a journal or a WAL file associated with this database, then we would have automatically had an option to select that and process the records from those journals alongside the main database live and deleted records. So we choose OK. So now the case is completed. I'll briefly show you what the different tabs down the bottom to explain what these are, and then we'll go on to designing a query which will show you what happens at the top. Results tab, which is the main tab, will be the results of any query we design shortly. Summary tables is just a short first 100 rows from each table, just to give you an idea of what's in each particular table. This is not all of the data, and this is, as I say, just a summary to give you an idea of the different structure. Search results will be populated if we do any keyword searches, and the case log just records what we've done as we go through the investigation. So now I'm going to do our first query, and I'll do this by dragging the messages table, which is what I want to create the query on, from the right hand the tables pane into the center visual query design window. And we can see the tree, given our basic queries updated on the left. More interestingly, the select query, the SQL query, is generated for us down the bottom, and what we can do now is go through and choose which columns from this database I'd like, or this table I'd like in the report. So I'm going to choose timestamp, I'm going to choose the author, I'm going to choose the dialog partner, and I'm going to choose the message itself, which is the body XML. So we can see as I clicked on each of these, the SQL was updated. We can see that changing, and we can see also that each of the columns in the report is listed here. So we can now run our query, execute SQL, and we can see, if I scroll down, the 4 fields and the columns from our report. We can modify this slightly, in fact we can modify it quite a lot. We can right click on the timestamp and change it from a Unix timestamp to something more useful. This is a Unix 10-digit timestamp, so I can change that as a conversion. I can set a time zone should I like. I can change the format of the date and time, and when I press OK, we see the query is rerun and updated with a more meaningful date. We can change the names of these columns should we wish. So rather than author, we might want to call the author, as we see here, we might want to change that to sender, and we change the dialog partner just to partner. When we run the query again, we see the SQL's been updated. This is valid SQL, it can be pasted into any SQL browser, but when we now run it again, we can see the names have changed. So let's do a slightly different query. I'm going to clear the query designer, and we're now going to drag across the contacts table. And from this we're going to choose, again, a simple report, the Skype name, the full name, email address and the avatar image. Again, a short report, and we can see the SQL is being created for us down there again. We now choose execute SQL. What we can see straight away, let me just resize this slightly, is that our JPEG, most of you should be familiar with the header there, has been displayed in hex. What we can do, we can click on display all blobs as images, or we can right click again and choose to display that particular column as an image or a picture. Choose OK, and our report is updated, and we can see the different images alongside each of the users. When we create our report, as I said, it's the defaults to HTML. We can run our report, and when I select our report or open our report, we can see the report here. One interesting feature of the report is if we decide that we want to make this image a little bit smaller, for instance, and then we create a new report, we can see that in our new report, when it's opened, that our images are now reduced in size. So the report is very much what you see is what you get. So what about deleted records? Again, we'll go back to our contacts database, and we can drag that across and design it. We've got our basic query. For this one, we'll just use the Skype name, and we'll scroll right the way down, and we've got this column SF is live. Just two columns in this report for simplicity. Execute it, and we can see here that we've got a column SF is live, which tells us the state of this record, if you like. If we move across and click on the filter icon here, get it right, we can see we've got live records, we've got partial records and recovered records. Recovered records would include deleted records, although not every recovered record is deleted, as it may, for instance, involve a record that has been moved within the database. And we can see down the left hand side our recovered original records, and I've hidden these because they are the record names before I anonymise this database. In order to show how to create joins on tables, we're going to digress a little from Skype and move to Kik, or the Kik Messenger. In a Skype table, there's pretty much enough information within the table to create a meaningful report, i.e. if a table refers to the user name is generally held within that table. In a properly normalized database, this isn't the case, and data is not duplicated, and any duplicate data is, or any discrete data is moved to a separate table. So for instance, if we look at the Kik messages table, we'll see if we run a query, and I'll just do the relevant fields, just a timestamp, the body and the user, which we can see is an integer field. We can see that rather than a user, we have a user number. What we need to do now is create a join on the users table between the user number and that table, and we will need to identify which is the relevant fields to do the join on. I happen to know, and it's beyond the scope of this quick demo, that we need to join on the primary key, which is probably quite normal. So we can now scroll down and we can choose a display name and run our query again, and we can see now we have a display name column with the actual user of the display name of the person who posted the message. And of course, from the report point of view, we can now remove the user number, and we can also change the column to the correct format, which in this case is a Mac absolute time. And there you go, a simple query with a left join. So what happens after we've spent a while getting the query just the way we like it, providing aliases for columns, etc.? Well, we can save it to our query manager. We right click on the center panel on the query itself and choose Save Current Query. We can type in a new application name should we wish to group queries together, or we can choose one that we've previously created. So I'm going to change it, save this under our Skype application, and I'm going to call this video query example. So choose OK. And now when we're working on our case, if we want to go back and choose a previously saved query, then we can go back to the query manager, left click on it, choose our Skype queries. We can go down and see all the different queries we've got there, and I'm going to choose a contact status query and reuse this one. So we just execute the selected query, and we can see straight away the query's been executed. It's completely different from the one we just had. We can then go ahead and customize it and then maybe save it again if we want to, or we can choose another query from our query manager as required. Thank you very much for listening.